All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are in the kitchen again with the Retirement Chef, whipping up wealth with Brian Butler, the CEO and Senior Wealth Advisor for Wealth Standard Financial there in Houston, Texas. Call them up, 713-955-6007, and get that free strategy session at wealthstandardfinancial.com. I'm your co-host, Doug Turnbull. Brian, hey, we may be recording on a Monday, but I feel like smiling today, okay? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's a pretty day in Houston, and I'm enjoying the weather because I know we're going to have another Arctic blast very soon. So it's a good time to be alive.
I'm going to be in the Lone Star State in Austin, the Austin area, in a couple of weeks from this recording, or just less than 2 weeks from this recording, because NASCAR is going to be racing at Circuit of the Americas, and I'm part of a team on something called Performance Racing Network that does the national radio broadcast. So I will be in Texas, so I'll be nowhere near Houston. We're not going to get to meet up or anything, unless you're planning to come to the race. In that case, maybe we could work that out. But so I'll be moving all around, just about having to travel to do that. You've actually, coming up here, got a pretty big move for the office, right?
Yeah. So we've been hunting for office space and trying to make the decision on whether we're going to stay where we are, invest in a bigger, better office space, or just go completely virtual. So everything has its pros and cons, and we've been going back and forth. But I think we've made the decision that we're probably going to move downtown Houston. And, you know, it ties into a lot of the things that we're trying to do in the community and then events that we have. So it's a really amazing building downtown in the theater district, has restaurants and bars on the first level.
Yes.
And we plan to do some pickleball tournaments later this year. And just so happens there's a indoor pickleball company moving on the first floor. So I'm like, all the signs were leading to, okay, this is the spot we need to be.
Hey, we have an indoor pickleball court here at Impact Partnership where I work in Atlanta, and I must say that is a big plus in the office here. So I got to ask, before we get into our big topic today, what made you consider going totally virtual versus going all in on brick and mortar there? Because I could see, like you said, the benefits of both.
No, absolutely. So doing the totally virtual deal, the way I had to do it, I was measuring how many clients were coming into the office versus how many Zoom meetings we were having. Because we were having a lot of Zoom meetings, and we have clients all over the country. So we don't let, proximity stop you from working with us. But the last probably 6 months, we measured it, and I would say 70% of the clients wanted to come in the office and meet with us and talk face to face. And we would have some supplemental meetings on Zoom, but a lot of people wanted to have that face-to-face meeting. And so the way we figured, we might as well build out our office around the client experience, and, because people are giving us their life savings.
Yeah.
And so they want to have somebody that they can talk to and touch. And even our clients that are around the country, we do go out and visit them. So we'll travel to Michigan, to California, to Florida, Delaware.
Yeah.
We'll travel all those places different times of the year and meet with them face to face. And I think in this digital age with AI and everything electronic, face to face will never go away. And I think we want to build our business around that moving forward.
And especially with something as touchy and tricky and impactful as money, for sure. Well, that's what we're going to see get to today there. So I'm looking forward and seeing what the new digs look like here, even if you and I talk virtually. But by the way, in our previous episodes, we talked about, right in that vein, having enough money to retire, and then also the importance, or do you even need a tax planner? So check those out, Apple, Spotify, other podcatchers as well. And be sure to check out the previous episodes, again, of Whip It Up Wealth. But today, we're going to talk about the idea of just paying off debt and then saving money, because there is a ratio. You don't want to have too much debt, but you also don't want to have zero savings. And the way I got to thinking about this, Brian, is ABC News had an article based on a Federal Reserve Bank of New York report that said the total household debt in the U.S. is at a record high. Total debt, including credit cards, mortgages, other loans, is $18.04 trillion. $1.21 trillion of it alone is in credit cards. And although the credit card number is always higher in the first part of the year, maybe because of holiday spending, it is pretty alarming to see that Americans, despite some of the scares of the economy they had during COVID, despite other times where they got spurred into saving money, are carrying so much debt. So my question to you, Brian, especially for people nearing retirement, okay, I've got to get my cards in order. I need to have enough cash to guarantee an income the rest of my life. But I also have this giant loan that has interest and compound interest. So how do you help people deal with that delicate balance?
Well, people think that they have to choose one or the other when it comes to debt versus saving for retirement, but it's all about balance. So some of the biggest mistakes I see people doing is prioritizing debt only and ignoring their retirement savings. So they do a really good job of paying off all their debt in their late 50s, early 60s, but ignored the importance of compound interest and investing over time and time in the market. Time in the market is of paramount importance when it comes to retirement savings, because you have to build momentum when it comes to retirement, especially if you are a normal American that makes a good income and putting money away. The earlier you start doing that, the more money you're most likely going to have later on. And so if you have $10,000 in credit card debt at a 25% interest rate, that's costing you $2,500 a year. Meanwhile, if you have, yeah, I know it's rough, but if you invest $10,000 and get a 7% return, that's earning you $700 a year. So would you rather retire broke and debt free or wealthy with some manageable debt? So that's the target that we try to balance when we're dealing with clients. And so when you're building your wealth, accumulation is putting money away, investing on a steady clip. But when it comes to retirement, it's a cash flow issue. How can you decumulate those assets to where, okay, you're managing your taxes, managing your health care, all of the things that are obligations for you in retirement? Do you have a plan on that decumulation status in your retirement?
So decumulation status. So that decumulation being trying to pay down debt. Is that what you mean by decumulation?
Well, paying off debt and living. So you need income to live. So you're taking funds out of your accounts. So it's a double whammy. So how do you manage the balance between those two? Because if you just prioritize debt, you could potentially run out of money. You may run out of money anyway if you don't have a good plan. So managing expectations, prioritizing retirement versus debt, it's a balancing act because they're both extremely important.
Now, I've heard advisors and people like you say before, yeah, there's different kinds of debt, all right? Mm-hmm. There's debt that's working for you, like if you have a rental property and you're paying a mortgage on it, but you're also getting income, or even your own property because you're building equity in a house. Then there's things like just not being able to control your spending and having credit card debt or something like that. So is it dependent on the situation about how you tell people to blend that balance? Like if someone has a certain kind of debt, you're like, hey, it's okay to carry that for a little while, worry about your retirement savings, or there's certain high interest things where you're like, hey, your retirement's important, but you don't want to carry this too much longer. I mean, is it really case dependent?
It definitely is case dependent. So we're big believers in prioritizing high interest debt first. Those are usually, the credit cards, the personal loans and things like that. But we want you to be able to contribute, if you're able to a 401k, a 403b, or some kind of employer match. It's free money when you get that match. So there's nothing I can do that's going to get you free. So,
at least do the match is what you're saying. Like, come on. I mean, you got debt. At least do the match. Yeah,
absolutely. And consider debt consolidation or refinancing for other types of debt as interest rates change. And if you see an opportunity to lower your interest rate, that may be something worth looking at. And then it's a mindset. So I want you to create a retirement first mindset while making smart debt payments. So if you have a debt but no retirement strategy, you're setting yourself up for another financial crisis later. The key is don't just think about today, think about your future. So I think that's going to be key.
Oh, absolutely. Thinking about the future always, right? We're not looking back. We got to look forward on this stuff. Now, you talked about, and this is something I know very little about, debt consolidation, okay? If you know that an interest rate has come down the pike, you're probably going to know before the average client of yours. Is that something where if you know a particular set of clients have a certain kind of debt that you reach out and say, hey, the interest rates change. I highly recommend doing this. I can help you begin the process of debt consolidation? I mean, I know there's different companies that do that too. So how does that work?
So when it comes to debt consolidation, you have a lot of options depending on your situation. So some people look at things like home equity loans. They look at reverse mortgages in some cases. They look at just personal loans when they do debt consolidation. So when you're looking at all of these, you have to decide, is this going to put me in a better financial position if I do this versus just paying the cards off one by one? So, of course, you have the debt consolidation that Dave Ramsey talks about, where you're doing the snowball method. So you're paying your smallest payments every month and knocking those out and then moving on to the next one. Or you can do the debt avalanche strategy where you're paying your highest interest first and making payments towards those. So figuring out whether a debt consolidation loan makes sense or just a systematic payment schedule is one of the things that we help people do during our consolidation. So we have a process called WealthFlow 360 that has many parts to it that we walk people through the strategies that make sense for them where they are. So whether you are just starting out or you're a multi-millionaire that is looking to manage debt, which you'd be surprised. Most millionaires have a lot of debt. So it tells you that you can make money and have money, but still have debt, just depending on how you structure it. So that's what we like to do for people is figure out what makes the most sense for them, give them some advice and steer them in the right direction so we can give them the resources that they need.
Well, you've been in banking and financial services for over a quarter century now. You've seen it all. If somebody wants to just begin this discussion with you, I know WealthFlow 360 is a big part, I believe, of those initial talks. How do they get in touch with you, and what are those first conversations like?
So the best thing to do is go to wealthstandardfinancial.com. We have tons of resources on retirement, investing, business ownership. So what we want you to do is go to that website, get some of the resources that are there, but most importantly, contact us and we can schedule an appointment with you and really review your situation and see if there's a way for us to help. It's totally complimentary. We just are in the business of helping people. And if we help enough people get what they want, we'll get everything we want out of life, which includes helping people live a better retirement and just do the things that they've always wanted to do, but didn't necessarily think were possible.
Yeah, you go to wealthstandardfinancial.com and call the office too, 713-955-6007. One-stop shop, right, Brian? This is not just the debt office, okay? I mean, you're helping them grow, you're helping them look retirement forward.
Absolutely. This is full financial planning and wealth planning for families, for business owners. Is what we love to do from a retirement standpoint, because if we can get you there to either retirement or sometimes we call it work optional. Because some people don't want to retire. They just want to keep working, but work when they want to. That's our target. We love having those conversations and helping make dreams come true.
Hey, wouldn't it be great? There's some people right now that are just not digging their boss or manager of the company to be like, man, I'd love if this was work optional. Ball would be in my court. So get that conversation started. And there are probably a lot of people that don't realize that they're to the point of being work optional. They're so used to being work heavy. Go to wealthstandardfinancial.com or again, call 713-955-6007. And yes, Brian and the team are in Houston, but they work with people all over the USA. I love a line I've heard you say before, Brian. Retirement planning doesn't have to be bland. If you're hungry for some spice in your future and ready to cook up a retirement plan, got to get with the retirement chef, and that is you, Brian Butler. Sir, thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to learning more from you.
Hey, Doug, it was always great. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely. Again, hit Apple, Spotify, get the past episodes there. I know Brian and the team have been working on a YouTube channel, all sorts of things. Facebook page, too. They got a lot of good posts and include sometimes clips of the show. Just look up Wealth Standard Financial. He is Brian Butler, the CEO and Senior Wealth Advisor for Wealth Standard Financial. I'm Doug Turnbull, and thank you, everyone, for listening to The Retirement Chef, Whipping Up Wealth with Brian Butler.
The opinions voiced in The Retirement Chef, Whipping Up Wealth with Brian Butler, are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial, or tax advisor prior to investing. Guests on The Retirement Chef, Whipping Up Wealth are not affiliated with CWM LLC. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.